Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in and happy 4th of July. Thanks for joining us. It is the Maize and Blues Good Afternoon Michigan Football Podcast. I am Dennis Fithian. It's great to be with you here on the 4th. And on three rivals of the Maize and Blue review, we're ready to get this one underway. And, you can have a lot of fun on the 4th of July. If you're a Michigan fan, the fireworks have already started. How about that? With Michigan picking up yet another highly rated commitment. And it doesn't stop right now. It just continues on. There's more to come as this weekend unfolds. Hope you're having a great one wherever you are watching this one, safe and ready to go here on the 4th. I've got a good show for you, and what we're going to be talking about, the United States under-19 basketball team, the FIBA World Cup. They're playing over in Switzerland, and Morez Johnson Jr. in the starting lineup against Canada, and the United States wins that game by 6 points, and they'll advance to the semis. I watched that entire game, and there was one play that had me jumping out of my chair that I'll tell you about, and it included MJJ. So we'll get to that coming up. Also, never too far away from Michigan football and thinking about the upcoming season, and straight at you, right between the eyes. Just had that one big square eye right in the middle of your forehead. Is Bryce Underwood starting from day one? Is that a lock? I will tell you what I think about that. But we will start with the big news. And it's not even dark yet, but the explosives have been lit. And it has happened. Michigan getting another commitment to their 2026 recruiting class. And it's another wide receiver. And it's another good one. And Travis Johnson. And he's another big wide receiver, 6'4", out of Virginia. It was Michigan, it was Penn State, maybe Georgia and Va Tech. We're thinking that it would have been a surprise if they would have been able to land him. But in the end, it's not. It's Michigan. Never been able to do that quite yet. And I think 4th of July, it is kind of looking like an M there. Ron Bellamy is able to get his guy, and Sharon Moore as well. Michigan looking pretty good. You have it's funny. For years, you talk about, why can't Michigan get wide receivers? And, why can't they get a quarterback that's one of the best in the country? Will the wide receivers follow in tow? And the answer is yes, emphatically. You can say yes, they will. Yes, it is happening. Michigan, they got Zion Robinson, a big, tall wide receiver out of Texas a little while ago. Before that, they were in Texas, and they got Jaden Pyle, and now they get Travis Johnson. So there's a trio of wide receivers that have just been hauled in by U of M, and there was a lot of people over the last couple of years saying Ron Bellamy can't recruit. And that wasn't me. I don't know where people get it from. I think I've said this before. You have to pick one of the coaches, and everything always just can't be. There's some people that live this way. Everything just always can't be great. I mean, there are some people that just think, oh, everything's great, everybody's great, and I get that. There's other people that are always looking for something, and I think this is where that comes from. If there's something there, I'm one that will look at it and look at the landscape and say, okay, there's a little something there. I didn't think anything was there. I thought that a style of play how many times you're throwing the ball, who the quarterback is. Those are going to be the big factors. Also, in the NIL era, Michigan has everything covered now, and there was going to be no reason if we were sitting here on July the 4th, 2025, and Michigan had no wide receiver commitments, and they had Bryce Underwood in fold, and they had full money to go with NIL. I would say, there's looks like a problem. Looks like a problem recruiting wide receivers, but I don't see it right now. In fact, they look like they're doing pretty good when it comes down to it. And so Johnson announces earlier today, just this afternoon, it just happened, where he, says he's going to Michigan. And so now the weekend, you got your plans and you're looking at it. And John Turntine is a offensive lineman. I'm not sure his timetable. I also, though, think that Michigan and just how things have worked out and unfolded, while they wanted Turntine, they would take Turntine. The way Texas Tech has been rolling, and they were able to get Webb yesterday, and obviously they've got something going on down there in Lubbock where they're trying to stay relevant. And to do that, you got to, open up the vaults. You got to get people going, and they have been doing a good job here talking about the Red Raiders, and they want Turntine. They want, and then Texas also in the mix. Here it is. I'll be going live on IG today for my commitment at 2 o'clock. That is Turntine. My mistake. He's got Texas A&M, and Michigan. And so if I could restart, my point on this is that the way Texas Tech is going and the way Texas and Texas A&M, the state of Texas, they want to keep some of these guys in here. Texas is the one that I think you got to look out for when it comes down to Turntine. And because Texas, they're an hour earlier than us, even though he has put 2, I think that'll be 3 o'clock that we're talking about with Turntine. But I am not expecting this to be a Michigan pledge for what it's worth. They'll take it. You'd love to have him. Looks like a great prospect and everything else. But as things have flipped and flopped and how they've worked and how they've played out, I would expect JT the third to stay home. We'll see. Now, tomorrow, this is the interesting one. Calvin Russell III, outstanding wide receiver from Miami, Michigan, Florida, the U, LSU, Oregon. Everybody wants Calvin Russell, and maybe Michigan. Like Michigan, they're going to get 4 wide receivers. Yeah, maybe. You're going to take a guy like Calvin Russell, who also wants to play basketball. I think you got to put Syracuse in here. I was reading today on On3 Rivals on the Maize and Blue Review that Syracuse is also saying, hey, Calvin, you want to play basketball too? You can play basketball. You can play football. Michigan is also talking about basketball and football for Calvin Russell, which he wants to try to do. And so keep an eye on that one. That's happening tomorrow. And he would be the highest ranked wide receiver if Michigan was able to pull him in. A couple of years ago, Donovan Peoples-Jones, remember, he was a 5-star out of Detroit. And then if you want to go in the way back, before they had the rankings, how they make recruiting now, they used to just call guys, if you were, I don't know if they called them 5-stars, they called them supers. I mean, if you get a super, back in 1998, coming off the national championship, Michigan put together the #1 recruiting class in the country. They won the national recruiting championship that year, and they got the top 2 wide receivers in the country. A wide receiver named David Terrell would go on to be a #1 pick. our first round pick, I should say, of the Chicago Bears. And then the great Marquise Walker, who was a tremendous, great hands, great ability, maybe the best hands of any wide receiver in Michigan history. The great Marquise Walker, he was the number 2 wide receiver. So it's happened before, and let's see if it can happen again when it comes down to Michigan and a highly ranked wide receiver in Russell. And then Dorian Barney tomorrow is a corner out of Carlington, Georgia. And Michigan is not only right in the mix, they lead for DB, the CB out of Carlington, Georgia. And it'll be a little bit of a surprise if Michigan does not get Barney, and if he ends up not being maize and blue tomorrow. So hang on, check it out. We'll see. Up to 21 commitments right now. We'll see how it ends up playing out for Michigan. But that is how it looks. And, with all these wide receivers, you say, how many wide receivers are they going to take? Well, they've got Travis Johnson. They've got Zion Robinson. So TJ and ZR are committed. Calvin Russell tomorrow. And then you got Sadler here, the local superstar, number 1 player in the state of Michigan, who wants to play offense and defense. So could they fit Sadler in? I know a lot of people are like, no, well, they get Russell, probably, say so long to Sadler. I don't know. Like, find a spot, get him coming in, whatever. I can see why you'd say that, because 4 seems like a pretty crowded class, and all of that to happen. Can you really have that many? I mean, how many footballs? Michigan going to an air raid, whatever. All the different things you can say. I understand that. I get it. What you're saying. I'm just saying that you love Sadler. What do recruiting people say? No matter what, he's a take. No matter what, he's a take. Michigan's got 4 wide receivers. They got 3 committed right now. They might get a 4th tomorrow. Sadler, recruiting fans, he's a take. So let's see how that ends up playing out. That's the 4th time I said we'll see. But we'll just have to see how it does. Let's go. Rip Star in the house on the 4th. Great to see him, of course. It's like great to see all of you out there. Look at Jeff and John. Wishing all of you who are watching this live right now a happy 4th of July. And we are in the presence of a superstar. That is True Blue Tom. Tom, I wish I had a horn to honk for you. There he is. Lots of fireworks, Tom saying, with Michigan recruiting, with Travis Johnson being the latest. This class is built. Yes, they are, no doubt. John D's working. He's asking about the Russell III being next. I don't know. And he's coming back a little bit saying, hey, he was a little critical of Ron Bellamy, but he's feeling a little apologetic when it comes down to it. Tom, you could just take your hands and just start hitting the keyboard, and it could come out and it would all make sense to me. I know what you're getting at. It is a very exciting time for Michigan. Tom now saying, and he's got it perfectly typed out here, he says the 26 class is built to win championships. And Tom, I don't see any errors in what you type in there. It all seems pretty clear. And wow, a back-to-back of True Blue Tom, and then True Blue Hadley. He's wanting to follow up on our buffet conversation that we had last week. And he is talking about the Golden Corral. And he was saying Ryans. These are the best. Also, congratulations on the recent commitments. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Hadley. I'll take the congratulations. I appreciate that. Yeah, if you go back to Wednesday's show, it just popped up out of nowhere where we started talking about, and I think we have to credit Rip, who started talking buffets, if I'm not mistaken on that. 98% of the time we're just talking Michigan, but that was like one of the 2% where it went off and we went to buffets. And then this being a holiday, we also ahead will be talking about hot dogs. And it is the 4th of July. You know, you could talk watermelon, you could talk potato salad, barbecue. There's a lot of different ways to go when you're talking about food on the 4th of July, you know, just straightforward there. But, you know, hot dogs, there's nothing more Americana than a hot dog. And I will present to you my 4 favorite hot dogs of all time. So that is coming up for you straight ahead. You won't want to miss that. But we do have basketball and then also the Bryce Underwood conversation that we're going to have. Right now, we're just reading the feedback from all of you who have jumped in on the 4th of July. Keegan, who is a master emoji man, and now also has a photo there. Can I detect? Is that a guitar with some beautiful scenery? I don't know. Would we get the Smoky Mountains or something? I want to be wherever you're at, Keegan. I hope that is a photo from today. A guitar. I got some mountains in the background. It looks like a little bit of water. I mean, that is a perfect picture. Can I decipher what's going on here? A blue dot with eyes. That means Michigan's doing work on the recruiting trail. That's how I interpret those symbols. Hadley asking a question about the best fireworks show I've ever seen. And have I ever been to the one in Detroit? I have never been to the one in Detroit. That one looks, I've watched it on TV. It looks pretty good. There was one time in 1989, I lived on 8 Mile, right on 8 Mile. You go out to I lived at a place called the Basin Street Lounge. And you'd go out to the patio of the Basin Street Lounge, and if you just flipped a quarter like this with your thumb, it would land on 8 Mile. Before Eminem and everything, there it was on 8 Mile. I was there for a year or two. But you'd get out on the patio, and I brought everybody over because I thought, you know, it was 8 Mile and between Lasher and Evergreen. You know, that's where the Basin Street Lounge was. It's not there anymore. But I had a party. I had everybody come over, and I said, "We'll watch the fireworks." And I thought from 8 Mile and Evergreen on the top, it was a bar down below, but then up top was his apartment where I lived with my dad. And I thought that we would all be able to see the fire. Well, you couldn't see it, so we got no fireworks. The best fireworks show, Hadley, my mom has a cottage up in around Clare, Michigan. Lake Bertha, very small lake. But at least a half dozen times I went up there for the 4th of July. And you know, she's got right on the water, a pontoon. I have 2 uncles who had places, a cousin, uncles all around this lake. Joyous time, awesome time up there, listening to Tiger games, 4th of July, nothing like it. You get the fire at night and you just sit around and then the lake and everybody's blasting off. Those would be the best. If I could pick one in particular, one time somebody set off some sort of firework. And it was just I would imagine if it was in wartime, you'd be in trouble because it lit up the entire lake. It lit up the entire sky, just bright It was like a big spotlight. I don't know what it would have been called, but for like 30 seconds, it was like daytime. That is my best and my favorite firework. There's Dorian Barney. I like it, Keegan. I'm now I'm picking it up. I'm right there. Daniel has given me a retweet on Twitter. Thunder Dan has reposted this stream. Thank you very much, Daniel. That is appreciated for sure on this 4th of July. The maize and blue cowboy. This is what happens. You get to a holiday and you come on and you get different people that are coming in here that you normally might. There's a lot of people that actually work during the day, and they, now they have the day off and they're sitting outside drinking some lemonade and by the pool, and they've got their iPad out there and they have the maize and blue review on, and they're like, what else can you ask for? A cool drink and Michigan talk. And I'm just imagining that's what's going on with the maize and blue cowboy right here, who has shown up on this 4th of July. Randy is saying this offense will be like the 23 Washington Huskies. I know, the Penix Jr., Romo Dunze. I mean, they were loaded across those wide receivers, but they didn't. And Michigan had a lot to do with it, but man, I remember that Michigan was going to win the championship game, but I hadn't thought about it in a while. But I can remember Odunze didn't play his best game, probably got locked up. Maybe Will Johnson was locking him up. But there was also a pass interference. Was Odunze involved in that? But yeah, Keegan talking hot dogs. The dog eating contest is come and gone. My wife came up to me and said 73 and a half hot dogs or something like that. And I was like, no, I'll just take like 2 or 3. She's like, no, that's how many old what's his name scarfed down today. And I was like, damn, no thanks. Mount Shasta. I've never heard of Mount Shasta, Keegan, but I want to know more about it. The Shasta, like a soda pop, maybe from back in the day. Maybe it's still out there. Kind of feel like I remember somebody saying, "Do you want a Shasta?" And I was like, sure. Mount Shasta is in California. Not bad. All right, so thanks for the information. That's exactly the kind of thing that I was looking for. So, yeah, that's it with recruiting, where everything is at right now. It's all going great. Michigan is doing fantastic. They're built for the future. If we're counting down the days to the start of the season, which you do, and you get into July, you get to August, and you just can't wait. July 22nd, the Big Ten will be out in Vegas for the Big Ten coaches meeting. That's like the unofficial kickoff where everybody really you start getting fired up. A lot more talk there. I understand that. We're talking about it every day. Certainly this podcast 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2:00. We go live. And with recruiting, it has made this off season as enjoyable as it could be under the circumstances. I had to say, I go back to the national championship game and in Michigan, Washington that was referenced. And I just thought about that off season and how it didn't matter to me. The summer could have been 10 years long. And every day it was like, Michigan's the defending national champ. You'd see all the merchandise out there, and you'd see once in a while people say, 57 days. Be like, okay, all right, I'm good. I'm good to go. The off season as a national champion, it didn't doesn't happen every day, that kind of stuff. So but then this offseason, like more offseasons, they don't win a chip. They didn't win the Big Ten for the first time in 3 years. Did beat Ohio State, which goes to show you the combination of getting Bryce Underwood, beating Ohio State, and then springboarding by beating Alabama and sending Nick Saban off. All of those things. It's almost like Michigan didn't lose a bunch of games last year. It's almost like you were able to really forget about those things quickly. That is how I felt about it. All right, I have been watching, and then you say there's no sports going on. The Tigers are great, although they didn't play really well the series against the Nationals. But hey, they're not just going to. I didn't think, and I don't think they're not just going to blow. They're going to be 40 games above 500 and just mow right to a World Series champion for the first time in almost 40 years. I don't think it's going to be like that. There's going to be a few bumps in the road for the Tigers. But then we have a little Olympic basketball, and I'm going to tell you about it. Now, this year they had the hockey for the middle of the season. They had the Four Nations, and everybody loved it. It was great hockey. I loved it myself. It was awesome. The United States winning it would have been more awesome, but it was great to watch. Everybody's like, this is what it's all about. Why don't they do it in basketball? Well, last summer, they did do it in basketball. And I loved last August, the Olympics, the United States, all these, they watch these teams go at it. It was great. So I'd say that to get you to this under-19 team. And would I have been watching this under-19 team if they didn't have Morez Johnson Jr., who is committed from the portal to play for Dusty May in Michigan this year? I don't know. Probably not. But they have played now 5 games, including today against Canada in the quarterfinals, which they won by 6 points. And this team is great. It was an excellent game today. And Morez Johnson Jr., 10 points, 7 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, a block. I mean, this guy, he sold hot dogs at the half. Morez Johnson Jr., and I didn't even get to the big highlight that had me jumping out of my chair during this game. Morez Johnson Jr., if you have not watched him play, he is a very athletic, 6'9" rebounding machine, quick jumper. He'll get tons of offensive rebounds and putbacks. He'll get tons of offensive rebounds and jams. You could just guarantee that from watching him now. This is by 5 games. He'll get a bunch of garbage points by snatching boards and throwing dunks down. And then he'll get a lot of points by Cadeau or LJ Kaysen or anybody else driving the lane, and he'll just be down there in the post, and he'll throw alley-oops to him, and he'll be throwing them down left and right, and he'll be a fan favorite. Dunking, rebounding, and shot blocker. He is an amazing shot blocker. This tournament, he's gone out with guys that are just shooting threes, and he's swatted them. And it's rejection city when he is out there. You got to, have your head on a swivel. He's got a 7'2" wingspan. He can run the floor like he's a guard. I was super impressed. It sounds like I'm super impressed. I am super impressed with Morez Johnson. And it doesn't, in the first game against Australia, they threw it down to the post to him, and he was double teamed, and he had a fadeaway on the baseline that he hit. I was like, ooh, I wasn't expecting that. He was posting up. They gave him the ball. Today, he shot a 3-pointer. And I got to say that the 3-pointer, he looked, he didn't make it. He looked pretty decent out there. You're watching the big fella throw up a 3. He deserved it. He was wide open. And then, the very next sequence, they threw him the ball, and he was wide open again. I thought, is he going to throw another one up there? He didn't. He threw it over to Debansa, who's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft next year, and he knocked down a shot. Nice job Morez, but Morez is everything that you want in a basketball player from a team aspect if you're trying to win something big. Because who doesn't need defense? Who doesn't need an awesome rebounder who can do all of these things without being a first or second or even a third option on offense? I mean, this is a godsend if you're Dusty May. Dusty May's out there in Switzerland, and he just must be thinking, man, did I get up? Did I score big here? He's got to be nudging people like, I don't even know if I was expecting this, but it's all going great for Morez Johnson. In the first half, Canada's got these two gigantic 7-footers. And the one guy, I started watching him like, wow. I mean, he even looks, how tall is this guy? So I said, I'm watching. I was just watching him on my iPad, and I had to get a little bit closer. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, this guy looks like he's 8 feet tall. No exaggeration. And so as I'm looking it up, Morez goes up, and I hear Morez Johnson Jr. blocked. And I look over there, and he's getting blocked by this, tall, 7-foot-plus dude from Canada. He gets rejected. I'm like, hey, that's going to happen. You go up, and you get some 7-footer. So now I look, and it says, this dude, Rio, I think his name is. He's committed to Florida. Listed 7'9". What? I have doubled, 7'9". I've never heard of somebody being 7'9". I remember Yao Ming was like 7'5", 7'6", right? Yao Ming, Chuck Nevitt, for those that are old enough for the Pistons, or Sean Bradley. Those guys were 7'5", 7'6". Now this dude's 7'9". And he's out there playing. And then he wears number 32. They also had this 7-footer who, is short compared. I mean, he's a 7-footer short compared to the dude that's 7'9". But let me get to the point. They throw the ball into Morez Johnson, and he goes up and he throws down a right-hand dunk over this 7-footer. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I looked and I saw the 2 on his back, and I thought, Morez Johnson Jr. dunks over a 7'9" Canadian. I mean, I'm thinking I've got the highlight and story of the day. But then I had to go back and I had to look really close, and I'm like, oh, that's 12. Look, they're both gigantic white guys. When you put them next to each other, you probably can't tell, but I hadn't seen a 7'9" guy ever. You see it and you're just like, what? Everybody else is, even the 7-footers, almost a foot taller, obviously, than the 7'9" guy. But Morez dunks on this 7-footer who had blocked him earlier. And it's that was, I was like, I don't need to watch any more of this game. That's it. You got to just check that out. The dunk and everything that went on there. Actually, I have it on my Twitter feed at Dennis Fithian. I should have loaded it up now that I'm going on about it, but you know what I probably can do? I can just show you right through my phone. People like when I do this. Really, here he is. So here's Johnson. Boom! Dunking on the big 7-footer. Let's see if it just replay. I don't know who that is. Sometimes you got to watch it. All right. So great individual play there for Morez. And then the USA team, they will play the winner of Switzerland, the home country, who's hosting the host country, I should say, and New Zealand. The Kiwis have Oscar Goodman, who's a Michigan commit. Those guys are playing right now. So USA will play the winner of Switzerland and New Zealand tomorrow in the semifinals. And so hopefully it'll be New Zealand. You'll be able to watch Goodman on one side and Morez Johnson on the other. there's your rooting interest. There's something to check out tomorrow. And check it out anyways, even if it's the Swiss and the United States. You'll get a good look at Morez, and you'll say, man, I like it. So that's that when it comes down to it. So you probably hear about Underwood a lot. Bryce Underwood. I saw that he's going to be at a dealership with a host of other Wolverines coming up. Check your local listings. You want to go out there and see Bryce Underwood. But is it a lock for him to start the opener? I've been putting percentages up all along, before the spring game, after the spring game. I had him a little bit higher when there was no Keene, but then Keene came back. And for those of you that are listening on the podcast, I have Underwood to start the opener at 80%. It's a pretty big number. Is that a lock? No. Am I factoring in injury? No. Am I factoring in that possibly Keene could have a great summer and know the offense better, and that they just might feel it's a good idea to ease Underwood? Maybe, but no, I don't think so. If you were doing this, you'd probably say 99% Underwood, and you'd put, I don't know, whatever you might put up there. But this is how I did it. I put Underwood at 80%, and so I put Mikey Keene, who's got a lot of experience, and I think will be quarterback 2 at 15%. And then I put Jaden Davis and Jake Garcia, who came in from East Carolina, who was at the U, a depth piece. I put him at 2.5%. That's a pretty big long shot to have Jake Garcia, or Jaden Davis, obviously, or being just given 15% chance is a pretty big long shot. So yeah, it's going to be Bryce Underwood against New Mexico. I just wanted to put that back out there and tell you what I'm thinking about the whole thing. So that's it. All right. Rip, who was talking buffets on Wednesdays, talking blue cheese and wings. He's excited about Chestnut getting it going. Well, Rip, you might have missed, but you can always go back and watch this or listen to this show. That's the beauty of it. We are live right now at 22 minutes in front of 3 o'clock. The headline is that Travis Johnson has committed to Michigan. Michigan up to 21 commits. Turntime the second is set to make his announcement coming up next hour. Expected to stay in the Lone Star State. And then tomorrow there's a pair, Calvin and Russell III. Woo, that'll be a big one to watch. And then Dorian Barney also going to make an announcement tomorrow. So it just keeps going. You're a Michigan fan, bang, 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 bang. It's happening. But now we get to some hot dog talk here at the end of the show. And for me, I am going to give you my 4 favorite hot dogs of all time. So let's do it. And by the way, I had Nathan's 20 years ago. I went over to Brooklyn with the intent on having a Nathan's hot dog, world famous. And I thought that they were overrated. But it was still worth the trip because I'm not even a big French fry and chili kind of person. But I got those there, and they were way better. I was overly impressed with the French fries and chili that I was getting from Nathan's, but not very impressed with their hot dogs. They did not make my top 4. I don't know if they would make my top 10 if I went through and did some of the other ones. There's not player dog. That was a friend. Yester Dog from Grand Rapids. They would probably be in the top 10, but they didn't make the top 4. At number 4, I'll go 4-1. At number 4, now I like Lafayette and I like American. And I'm a Michigander. I love Coney dogs. You're from Michigan, you're going to love Coneys. But you got to pick one of those two. People will get offended if you're like, and I don't like ties myself. So you have if they're both pretty close, you still have to pick one. And I will pick Lafayette. They have been the one for me. But my experience at Lafayette one time, and the way that I pick them is not even the hot dog's great. It really is. And I don't know what it's like over the last, 5 years or so. But there was a time where you would go to Lafayette and you would go, if you ever went to the bathroom, it felt like you had crossed over into some sort of vortex where you were a time traveler. I'm not kidding around with this. The bathroom was downstairs, and I remember walking down stairs at Lafayette, and suddenly I'm in some sort of different realm. There's this a color that, I don't know, greenish opal that looked like it was probably there from the Great Depression. And I'm down there, and it's a little bit eerie. It's a little bit scary. And like I say, if you feel like you've been jettisoned to some other time, you're like, what actually is going on down here when I'm looking at the bathroom of Lafayette, Coney Island? And then you go upstairs, and everybody's, you go back up, and everybody's acting like there's, nothing happened. You're right back to where you were. And you sit down at the table with people, and you're like, have you ever been downstairs? And people look at you, you're like, oh, yeah. It's what just happened? But I will put Lafayette at number 4 as my favorite hot dog of all time. Number 3, right down the road from where I'm at right now, is a place called Bill's Drive-In. It's in Ypsilanti. Bill's Drive-In is famous for their hot dogs and root beer. And I don't even like root beer, really. I don't order root beer when I'm there. But they've got these famous chili dogs. And they're, you would say that it doesn't look, I would say it doesn't pass the look test. It'd say, whoa. But the taste test is where it's at. They're chili. I don't know if it's orange, but when you put yellow mustard on it, and then they put this wrapper, and it kind of feels, the bun's a little, condensed there. And again, you look at it, you'd say, wow, this place isn't anything that you'd like. But then you eat it, and you're like, whoa. Bill's Drive-In, exquisite. Got to try it if you have. They're going to be number 3 on my list. Number 2, I am going to an experience. I grew up, I never liked the Cubs, the Chicago Cubs. Chicago's a nice place to visit, but it's not like I'm like, oh, I love Chicago. But I like visiting there. It's true. And the second time I went to Wrigley, I sat in the center field bleachers, general admission. Sammy Sosa was the center fielder. He would turn around and gesture at the crowd and everything else. But you had to stand outside for that general admission for like 2 hours for a day game. Did they serve old style outside? I don't know. I had a few of a real Chicago experience, some old style beers, and then sitting in the bleachers at Wrigley during the day game with Sammy Sosa. So all of the things on the checklist were hit. Sosa, day game, Wrigley, old style. At one point, I went to get a hot dog, and they have the ramps. If you remember the old Tiger Stadium, they've got ramps. It was built the same year, Wrigley and Fenway and Tiger Stadium. So they look a lot alike. And if you remember before the 70s, when they put the orange reserve seats in and put the blue seats in, Tiger Stadium looked a hell of a lot like Wrigley if you're just sitting back there and just checking it out. But so I'm on this ramp, and midway through, there's a hot dog stand there. And You know, a Chicago dog, it's got like a fluorescent peppers on it, tomatoes, along with the onions, and they, they get little, I don't even know what you call those little black uh, seeds that are in the bun. You might say gross, but I have to admit that I found the Chicago dog at Wrigley, and I don't know, I might even tear up here for a second. That's how good it was. I've never had a better hot dog than that old Chicago dog, that Wrigley dog. I remember after I was down there, I told everybody about it, and some people would humor me, some people would roll their eyes and everything else. But I remember going up north and I bought all of the things on this Chicago dog, and I liked it so much. And I tell you, to this day, I would still, I haven't done it in a while, go out and buy all of those fixings. I remember I went up north, bought like $40 worth of hot dog stuff for the Chicago dog to replicate, that great experience. And I think I ate it all on the first day. Not recommended, but a very emotional experience there. And anytime I'm going to talk hot dogs, I'm going to put that Wrigley dog being on that list. And so that gets me to number one on this 4th of July. And for that, I am going to my favorite hot dog of all time. A lot of things, just like when you say, hey, who's your favorite athlete of all time? And it's very easy for me when anybody asks, in any sport, anything, who's your favorite? Immediately, there's no, well, I got to put, it's Anthony Carter. Anthony Carter was superhuman. Anthony Carter is the greatest athlete of all time. There's nobody that even comes close to it. There's Anthony Carter, and then everybody else is way down here. Well, I was 8 years old when I started watching Anthony Carter, and I cried when he left Michigan. And for many years, I thought, if I ever talk to Bo Schembechler, I'll have to say, Bo, you won't believe it, but I just got to ask you, I got to tell you that when Anthony Carter left Michigan, I cried because I thought that you got to stay forever, at Michigan. And guess what? I did ask Bo that one time. I said, Bo, I told him my story. And I said, and when Carter left, I cried. And you know what Bo said to me? So did I. And he made me feel great. Bo cried when Carter left. Nice job. I like the response. But the point to that is that when you're young and you're around 8, 9 years old, those things are going to really resonate with you. And so my number one, I had a drum roll or whatever else, some fireworks cracking here on the 4th of July. It's a Tiger Stadium dog. I saw some youngster on a TikTok the other day, and he was making he contended that Comerica Park was way better than Tiger Stadium. And I said, okay, this guy's a younger guy. I don't know. How does he know? He never went to Tiger Stadium. That's tough to say. Well, he loves Comerica. That's fine. But just for the hot dog, Comerica, they have a little satchel or something. They just reach in. Here you go. They give you a packet of mustard. It just doesn't compare. I mean, there's nothing. And I know they've got a million things you can go in and all the different spots that they have in the concourse. They got great food all the way through there if you're lucky enough to get up where the big timers are. They've got some great food up there. Amazing, really. But until you have had that metal magic box that these dudes used to have to carry around Tiger Stadium, and I don't know, they had their hot dogs in there, but I think it was half full with water. It was the perfect combination ratio. The steam was able to keep the hot dogs perfect. It also was able to give you the bun that was perfect as well. And then they had these, you'd say a tongue depressor or like a big popsicle stick. They just had this big jar of mustard and they would just slather it in there and then put that down in your hot dog. They didn't have anything else. That was it. Somebody would say you ketchup. They might laugh at you. That's all right. Hey, you like ketchup on your hot dog? Not back at Tiger Stadium. They wouldn't. A bleacher creature would eat you. You said anything about having ketchup on a hot dog, but the Tiger Stadium dog is number one, and there's no doubt about it. And if you went there and you were in the bleachers and they were going back, tastes great, less but everything else, and then you had one of those hot dogs, and you just say, "This is it. This is life. There's nothing really more that I need." That would be it. If it was one of those spots, you'd make a list of, I would like to be transported back for 1 minute here or there. Sure, you're going to pick Michigan Stadium and all that, but at some point down in that list, you'll say, take me back to Tiger Stadium in the bleachers and just give me one of those hot dogs. And then go ahead and take me. And that'll be it. And you'll be like, now I know. Now, nobody has anything else on me in this world. I've been able to fulfill that, especially if you're going back in time. So that's it. Those are my 4 favorite hot dogs. Lafayette, Bill's Drive-In in Ipsy, the Wrigley dog, and then Tiger Stadium. That's it. We will end this show by looking at the feedback. And I see a lot coming in that is here. It might be some hot dog talk on there. Somebody might say, I thought this was a sports show. And you'd be like, accurate, for sure. So I want to see where we're at. It might take me a minute to load these up. There's the Hall of Famer, True Blue Tom. Yeah, the hot dog contest is already over. Keegan, as expected. I don't know. I don't break it down. I'm not really a big, after I just went on and on for 20 minutes about hot dogs, I'm not a big fan of watching them. I don't know. Sometimes I got to watch what Rip is saying because he goes off the path, and I think, am I going to get in trouble or something? He loves nachos. Nothing wrong with that. We're just going through what people like at barbecue and Duke's mayo. Maybe get down there and at the bowl game where they dump isn't that what they dump the Duke's mayo bowl? Keegan, I didn't know there was such thing as a mayo snob. How about that? Let's see. Keegan is saying, don't sleep on a chili mac. So you got to put macaroni on a hot dog? I'm hoping somebody is going to say, there's a place down in Toledo that I've never been to. Paco's? This is the old radio bit that people like to bring up, and I always found this a little bit silly. Keegan, talking about a hot dog being a sandwich. Of course, it's not. And, there's a few things that I'm really good at. One of them is keeping sports in context and perspective. The other one is the hot dogs. And many times throughout my life, I have run out of hot dog buns. You don't have enough hot dogs, you don't have enough buns, one of the two, whatever. And so I've taken the hot dog and I've put it in a sandwich bread and tried it. And, you eat it. And it doesn't taste anything like a hot dog. It tastes like a sandwich dog. And so, no, it's not. And there have also been times where I have taken a hot dog bun and I've tried to put, I don't know, like turkey or something in there. And that doesn't taste anything like a hot dog. No, a hot dog has to have a hot dog bun. And so then it's not a sandwich. Anybody that would try to make an argument the other way just likes arguing. And that's okay. Some people like arguing. Dave's also considers Anthony Carter his favorite. His second Captain Comeback, Jim Harbaugh. I have to admit the 85 team, Harbaugh, Morris, Messner, I love all of those guys. When I was a youngster, Jamie Morris running the football. There's nothing. Now we're really sitting around talking about your favorites. But yeah, I got somebody saying Ripstar Charles Woodson is his favorite player of all time. Not bad. Not bad. I could see that Rip saying Skyline. Now, I thought Skyline was just Chili's. I didn't even know they had hot dogs, although a long time ago, I might even been in high school, I had some Skyline chili, and I was thinking, I don't know. This doesn't seem like some, great treat to me or anything else. But look, maybe maybe you have to be from Ohio or something like that. I don't know. I love this bit of feedback. This has made my day from Dave's. Dave's talked so much about Anthony Carter that he named his son Carter. Carter. Anthony Carter, who was a former Michigan captain. Dave's, I love that. How about that? Dave's is on a real roll here. The greatest game he's ever been to was an obstructed view in 84. 84, the magic year for Bless You Boys, the roar of 84. So he was probably put behind an obstructed view spot at Tiger Stadium, and it ended up being the greatest game that he went to. Now, look, the one thing about Tiger Stadium is they had a lot of obstructed views, but there was about 6,000 seats that you just couldn't have a better. You're right on top of the action for 6,000 people. It was a thing of beauty. Now that's it. Woo! There you go. Dogs. Nothing really goes with a hot dog except a second hot dog. Hadley's talking dogs. Why Tony Pacos? I say it, Pacos. There you go. And the hell with a hot dog on a piece of bread. Exactly. That's it. Well, if you did not hear, all of us here at the Maize and Blue Review, we are now with On3. Rivals merged up with On3, so we're a part of On3 Rivals. And you're thinking, well, wait a second, wasn't there somebody already there? Yeah, there was, and they talk Michigan, but so do we. And we'd like you to, join up with us, although you're still joined up with them kind of thing. It's like getting that, you go down to Florida and you get the all-day pass, or you're there for, you can go to Disney World and you can go to Epcot. They're all owned by Disney. Well, we're Epcot. The other guys, they're like Disney, but it's all the same place and it's all good. So we'd love to see you over there. Have a great 4th of July. Thanks so much for spending some time here on the Maize and Blue Review. It's always great to be able to come in here and talk with you folks and have fun with the feedback. It's almost like I'm not sitting here by myself, just looking into like some screen. Like I'm sitting around with all of you. So guess what? I'm looking forward to the rest of this. It's hot as can be. I'm really thankful for the great air conditioning I have right now. I will be back. We'll talk. Hopefully Jim Scarcelli. I'm expecting him to be with us Monday, and we will talk with you then. Until then, happy 4th of July, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the Maize and Blue Review. So long.